In this recording, we'll discuss urine composition and micturition. All right, so normally, okay, emphasis on normally, urine contains things like water, sodium, potassium, chloride, hydrogen, phosphates, sulfates, metabolic waste like urea, creatine, or creatinine, ammonia, uric acid, and we've even got a little bicarbonate, calcium, and magnesium. So like a lot of things, okay? Like normal urine has a lot of stuff in there. Okay, so we did spend a lot of time on nephron physiology, tubular secretion and reabsorption, this, that, and the other, and it almost seemed like pretty much everything was reabsorbed. And now here we are. That's not really true. You find quite a few things in normal urine. But there are some things you should not normally find in urine. And again, emphasis on normal. Okay, this is what you should not find in urine on a regular basis. Glucose. Okay, we talked about if you had too much glucose in your filtrate, you can only reabsorb so much so fast. Any excess would end up with glycosuria, which usually indicates you've got type 2 diabetes. Okay, normally blood proteins like albumin should not be in your urine. If they are, then you are suffering from either proteinuria or specifically albuminuria, which apparently is really hard to say. This indicates that you are filtering proteins, okay, which could be a sign of increased blood pressure. So if you increase your hydrostatic pressure, you might be able to force albumin out of the blood into your filtrate where it does not belong. And that's a problem. Normally, you do not have red blood cells in your urine. If you do, you are suffering from hematuria, which could indicate something like a urinary tract infection. Normally, you do not have hemoglobin in your urine. If you do, you are suffering from hemoglobinuria. Okay. This could indicate hemolytic anemia, some sort of negative transfusion reaction. Maybe you're suffering from burns. Maybe you're suffering from renal disease, something like that. White blood cells should not normally be found in urine. If they are, you're suffering from pyuria, which indicates some sort of inflammation of your urinary tract. And last but not least, bile should not be in your urine. So if it is, you are suffering from bilirubinuria, which could indicate a liver disorder. Okay, so obviously each one of these abnormal constituents of urine can basically tell your doctor that something's going on and we'll need to run more tests. All right, speaking of tests, urinalysis, we can analyze your urine. I am sure at some point you have been to the doctor and they made you pee-pee in that cup and then they ran tests on it. So that's what we're talking about. We can actually do a couple of tests just by looking at your urine. So normally the color of your urine should be like a pale yellow. It's not clear. Normal urine's not necessarily clear. There should be a little bit of a yellow pigment because it contains urochrome, okay, which is a byproduct of hemoglobin breakdown. Now, we've mentioned urochrome before. Okay. Certain drugs can also affect urine color, so other certain substances. So, for example, beets can turn your urine a little red. Asparagus can also affect the color, make it a little darker than normal. And then having bile or blood in your urine can also affect the color. Okay. And then asparagus can also make your urine stinky. Okay. Dark urine means it's more concentrated, so like the darker the yellow, the more concentrated, which means it has less water and you could be dehydrated. Lighter urine or a paler yellow means it's less concentrated, has more water, so you're very well hydrated. Despite the color, right, so whatever shade of yellow, urine should still be translucent, so you should be able to see through it. So if you hold up your urine sample and you put a piece of paper with words behind it, you should be able to read the words clearly. If you're having trouble reading those words, if your urine is cloudy, that could be either a sign of an infection or that you've got proteins in your urine. Now, the smell. Freshly voided urine should have a mild odor. Okay, if it's really strong, that could mean you have some sort of disease, an infection. Maybe you just ate a certain food, like I mentioned, asparagus makes your urine stinky. Okay, so that's not necessarily indicating something's wrong. Stale urine, so urine that has been sitting a while, is probably going to smell like ammonia. Okay. If you are diabetic, your urine could even have a fruity smell because of all of the acetone in it. Okay. We mentioned asparagus making it stinky, but certain drugs can also affect the smell of your urine as well. Now, normally the pH of urine is slightly acidic, about a 6-ish, but there's a very wide range of what is normal. Okay, so anywhere between a 4.5 to an 8. Okay. The more protein you have in your diet, the more acidic your urine will be. The more vegetables, good old veggies, the more of those that you eat, the more alkaline or more basic your urine will be. So average, okay, just normal average is about a 6, but 4.5 to an 8 is perfectly normal. Okay. In a 24-hour period, so in one day, you can produce anywhere between 1 and 1.8 liters of urine, so almost a 2 liter of Coke. Okay, 2 liter of Coca-Cola. That's a lot of urine. There are lots of things that will determine how much. So things like your blood pressure, your temperature, whether or not you're taking diuretics, how emotional you are, and even your blood composition. So if your blood gets too salty, we might make less urine. If your blood's not salty enough, we might make more urine, things like that. So there's actually a lot of factors that affect urine production besides just oh, I drank a lot of water today, so I made a lot of urine. There's a lot of other factors in play. All right, so micturition, also known as urination, also known as voiding, also known as going pee-pee, y'all. Everybody has to go pee-pee. This is the discharge of urine from the bladder. We're going to go out through the urethra to exit the body. Now, how do we figure out it's time to go pee-pee? It's because you have stretch receptors. Okay, you've got stretch receptors in your bladder. They are going to send a signal to the spinal nerves in your sacral region. They're going to go up the spinal cord. We're going to use sensory neurons, afferent neurons. These become activated when you've got approximately 200 milliliters of urine in the bladder. This is where distension starts to occur. Now, if you remember, if we go back, let's find it. I want to get the number wrong. Where is it? Where is it? Your bladder. Where is it? Oh, can hold like up to 800 milliliters. Okay, so if we're starting to activate those stretch receptors at 200, it almost seems like, oh, it's like barely got any urine at all, and yet we're already sending signals to say, oh, we might need to go pee-pee soon. Okay. Now, you know that if we're going to go to the bathroom, then we're going to need to activate the parasympathetic nervous system. Okay, those fibers are coming from your splanchnic nerves in your pelvic region specifically. This is an example of the visceral reflex arc. Okay, we haven't really spent a lot of time on visceral reflexes, but it's just an example of that. This stimulates your detrusor muscle. Now, we did mention your detrusor muscle in your bladder, and we talked about how the muscle fibers were arranged in 3 different ways so we can really squeeze the bladder empty. So this detrusor muscle will contract, and then the internal urethral sphincter, that's going to have to relax. It's going to have to open so we can actually pass urine through the urethra. Now, at some point, your cerebral cortex is going to need to get involved as well, because remember, your external urethral sphincter is skeletal muscle. It's voluntarily controlled. So your cerebral cortex gets a signal, and this causes a conscious desire to urinate. So you become very aware that you have to go to the potty. Okay. Now urination can occur because, again, you are consciously aware that, oh, it's time to go to the bathroom. So you voluntarily relax your external urethral sphincter, and you go potty. Now, at some point, the urge to go to the bathroom will eventually override any voluntary control. So basically, you can hold it, you can hold it, you can hold it, you can hold it. At some point, you can no longer hold it, and you will go pee-pee, whether you want to or not. Okay? The same thing applies for defecation. Okay, so we have talked about that before. So you can hold it, hold it, hold it. At some point, you can no longer hold it, and you will go to the bathroom whether you were wanting to or not. So hopefully you have made it to the potty. This is kind of what it looks like. We've got the stretch receptors. Okay. for both, and then the muscles of the internal sphincter. Everybody's sending signals to the brain, getting signals back from the central nervous system. We're going to relax our internal sphincter. We've also sent signals to your cortex, and your cortex is like, okay, fine, we'll go potty, and we can release your external sphincter as well, and then we can void our bladders.